when we spoke to brands, we would ask them a lot of times, like, what is the reason that, things go well for you? So we were trying to figure out before we even had traits, we were really obsessed with this idea of like trying to take the subjectivity out of marketing and advertising
Mm.
and trying to make it scientific. And we would ask people a lot of times, like, what is the reason that this ad that's your top performing ad, why do you think it's the best?
Yeah, man, excited to hear what you guys got, what you guys been building.
My background, my team's experience, I worked at Klaviyo. I don't know if you're familiar with them. 5.5 years, Series A through IPO. My other co-founder was the head of global sales there, hired 300 people, took us from 20 million to 500 million. Um, my other co-founder was my friend from college. He was the director of engineering at Salesforce, ran an AI data science team, 50 engineers or so, and data scientists. So we've been doing this for about 10 years together, at least in this
Hmm.
space.
Long
And
before the hype of AI
long before the
agents.
hype, we've been doing AI
You guys are
since
the
way
real
back.
ones.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
so, like when working at Klaviyo, we saw what all these big celebrity brands, I worked with the Kardashian brands, Feastables, like Fenty Beauty, like all these big brands.
Yeah.
And we saw a few brands really that were doing things way differently. And what they saw was they had two real levers, their products and their content. And they treated content like an engine where they were just always pumping more stuff in and testing it all the time, seeing what works, seeing what didn't, spending tons and tons of money on production and infrastructure to test and try different things. And we saw with the coming wave of generative AI, this was going to be available to everyone. But the problem when content's easy to produce is it tends towards low quality.
Hmm.
Right. So we're seeing that with like AI slop and
Yeah.
like bad AI and right and like people picking stuff up like that. And like it's kind of become super mainstream now. But years ago, it was a problem like under the hood for people who were using these systems, back then. People just weren't used to like seeing stuff written by AI. Now they are, they try and pick it out, but it's been happening for years.
Hmm.
Um, and so where we see the market is essentially in two places. There's a lot of these wrapper tools
Hmm.
that use Gemini, they use Black Forest Labs, they use like whatever frontier model, they put some UI on top of it, and they're like, hey, charge, we're going to charge $30 a month or 100 a month or 200 a month, and we're going to be like an AI ad creator. But really, they're just like wrapping models, and
Right.
there's a million of those. New ones come out every day. Um, some of them get customers early on, they raise money, they typically just like undercut costs, pass through discounts, and they're trying to be like the low cost provider to be like, hey, you can generate an ad with us for 10 cents or something.
Yeah. And I think
Um,
I saw a lot when it comes to this early UCG type of stuff,
totally.
where the videos intentionally look low quality, because essentially you couldn't really produce something, and usually you don't have the ingredients, right? No
Yep.
products inside, right? It's just like a slide or something like that. But before we go more into this, I was actually curious, just on a broad level, with Copley, where do you guys fit in that? I mean, how much of what you offer is in the planning, analytics, strategy side versus the
Yep.
creation side? Like, run me through
Yeah.
this real quickly so that people
Yeah,
know
totally.
what Copley
So
is
we
really
cover
good
the
at.
whole gamut. So
Hmm.
let me just show you while I talk
Yeah.
to you. So what we do is take in all of a brand's content
Hmm.
from their Meta account. So we sync in all the imagery, all the videos, all the analytics. We can also integrate with e-commerce analytics tools to use your source of truth. So in this case, this brand's using Triple Whale, and
Hmm.
what we do is we pull in everything and we label it across these different what we call traits.
That's
So we
interesting.
have these
Well,
categories.
can I just ask you what model you use to interpret it? Is it Nano Banana or what?
Oh, so great question. So we use a lot of different things here.
Yeah.
So we use some traditional APIs,
Yeah.
like OCR APIs, to peel off
Yeah, but specifically like
text from
lighting
images.
and mood, like this qualitative stuff that's really kind of you need intelligence to interpret the image frame by frame maybe. Like this is interesting. I'm very
Yeah,
curious.
so we have tools to split off scenes,
Okay.
and so from videos, and then we also we use models from OpenAI, we use
Mm.
Anthropic models, we use Google models. It really just depends on the exact use case.
Yeah.
But the main big frontier models, traditionally at the beginning, we used a lot of OpenAI. The way we used to think about building products was a lot of the times like we would start with OpenAI. They had
Hmm.
a lot of like pretty good general purpose models. When we had niche use cases that maybe we needed something a little bit more specific for, we would seek those out. For a lot of our agentic stuff and
Mm.
thinking type reasoning, we use Anthropic and we use Claude. So it's really just like the best tool for the job. So under
Yeah.
the hood, there's a lot of Gemini here. There's a lot of OpenAI. There's a lot of Anthropic.
Yeah.
And so what we do is, yeah, we peel out these categories, and then from these categories, we label discrete traits.
Hmm.
We normalize and aggregate performance data to figure out which of these traits have high return on ad spend and good, click-through rates. And we pull in every event that you're tracking in Meta. So we could track quiz completions, we can track landing page visits. We can apply these traits to any of your events because at the end of the day, right, it's just the content and the labels for the content, and then whatever event type that you're trying to track from that.
Hmm.
And what this allows us to do is get very granular with our image editing. So when we take these models to generate imagery, we have these really cool ideas
Mm.
on what we can create, how we can do it, what is going to lead to high performance. And we
Yeah.
can come up with these ideas all the time.
Do
And
you
then
happen to have some demos of type of media that comes out of your software?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me show you some stuff. So this account here is it's a candle company,
Hmm.
and what our user has done is gone in and just taken images of their products and will apply full ads out of them. So
Mm.
we'll do the copy to be optimized, the imagery, and you can use this through an agent or through the UI. So one of the ways that we deliver through our application is through Slack. So you can go right into Slack and say, hey, at Copley, I want to create some ads based on my top selling product.
Mm.
And then we can use these traits that we have to figure out what kind of imagery, what kind of things typically work well, and just rapidly prototype and get stuff out there, learn from it, and continually improve over time.
And you can fully all the way to publish the ad,
All
right?
the way to publish. So in our app,
Yeah.
we've implemented really everything in
Mm.
Facebook. So if you want to just push it to an existing ad set, you can go through, you can add it in, you can launch right from Copley.
Cool. That's awesome. What are
We do
the
videos, we do statics, we do carousels as well for brands.
right? Um, so I know you mentioned in your previous career, Klaviyo working with bigger companies, right? So I assume this is more for like the mid segment. Well, who's like the perfect target market that would get the biggest value out of this?
Yeah, so we are focused on brands doing between 10 and 500 million.
Hmm.
So really like what we call like the true mid-market.
Hmm.
As long as you're spending, a reasonable amount on ads, we can be able to help test and improve that and help you scale up. Ideally, the more data that you have, the better some of our recommendations will be at first. But even if you're a brand that doesn't have a lot of creative, we can help you with generating that from scratch, with getting started and kind of getting you on the hamster wheel.
Mm.
Uh, the goal is to get you to a point where you're releasing content really quickly. You're learning really fast from things that are working, things that aren't working, and the system is just constantly improving, generating more edits and more changes to things that we think will do well, seeing them do well, scaling those up, and
Yeah.
then always being ready with ads hitting diminishing returns, having the next round ready to go. And really that's the name of the game right now is being able to produce high volume of creative in diverse, different kinds of you know, imagery, background, messaging to different personas so that Meta and other systems can target the right person at the right time. If you're
Right.
only launching 5 to 10 ads, then you don't have a very large opportunity for them to personalize that. And so the idea right now is to feed the algorithm, send
Hmm.
these ads into the platform, let the platform figure out some of the targeting and how best to, they decide to show it. And then on your end, what you can do is invest in iterating on your winning ads, improving diminishing returns ads, and getting a lot of creative out there fast when you have new product launches, when you're trying to push like inventory on things that maybe are sitting around. It's like, you know what, now's the time to like run a sale, get this out there,
Yeah.
and just being able to execute on that really fast and close the feedback cycle so that you can just test faster, get it out there, learn more, and
Hmm.
move a lot faster.
Um, do you also help companies that they're just not that familiar with ads and they do have the budget, but for some reason they just haven't pushed the trigger yet. It's still too complicated. I still don't understand. Like, Facebook says that now they kind of, there's like this AI option, I believe, where they kind of create your audiences and all that, but it doesn't really seem to work in terms of onboarding new customers. You know what I mean? Is there something that you guys help fill that gap as well?
Yeah, so we have very high levels of approvals with Facebook. We can run essentially an entire Facebook account through Copley. So you can create new campaigns, you can launch them, you can manage them through us. So we can make it a lot easier to get started like that.
Mm.
I think generally the approach that we see a lot for people who are new to Facebook now or just starting out is to allow them to handle a lot of the stuff that their platform wants to do. So like you said, the AI-based targeting, the a lot of the Advantage Plus features, and then on your end, you're responsible for producing the content. So if you can get content producing, I think the world in which, you had to pay expensive media buyers to go in and click the buttons in the Facebook UI and set things up, I think that world is changing. You'd
Yeah.
be really surprised like how easily Claude and other systems, when you give it the right access and permissions, the right kind of context, can go in and make some of those changes for you.
Yeah. No, no, I mean, dude, I'm on Cloud Code like 10 hours a day. No kidding. If not more.
Exactly.
I totally
Yeah.
get it, but it's still like for most people, and even for me, like I have just so many things that I'm thinking about. I don't even run ads for my newsletter, which I know I should be, but I'm not at that level that you described
Well,
for the
at least
newsletter.
like retargeting ads is what I always say.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
why not? Like throw the pixel on your site,
Right, right.
throw some retargeting ads on it, see how it works.
Yeah. Is it just Meta or other platforms as well that you
Right
guys?
now, we're focused on Meta.
Okay.
That's typically the largest spend by far for our
Hmm.
customers. So we're really focused on getting that right. And then, yeah, we're in the short term going to be expanding to more platforms.
Random question. I just want to get your take on this because social media as a whole is changing. Obviously, my brother is actually the biggest fragrance influencer in the world, so I had my fair
Oh,
share
wow.
of that type of world as well. But how do you see ads in general and the attention economy in general when it comes to agents all of a sudden browsing the internet? And how do you a advertise, because I think those agents will buy at some point, and B, how do you also attribute uh, a view maybe from an agent versus a view from a person in the cost calculation and all that, how effective an ad is? Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. It's a really interesting question. I think the consumer agent world of agents going out and buying products from you, personally, I'm very skeptical of that.
Mm.
I think it kind of speaks to the broader AI market right now. I think you see there's kind of two large macro groups being formed right now. There's OpenAI and consumer facing AI, and there's Anthropic and business AI.
Hmm.
And I think in the world of agents, that what Anthropic is doing makes so much sense. I think dealing with taxes, dealing with regulations, dealing with all the paperwork I have to do as a business owner, all of the stuff, right, that like you have to just kind of get done in business, these processes, these workflows, it makes so much sense that an agent will be able to do that faster, more efficiently over time, way more accurately, and just make businesses way more efficient. I
Yeah.
think on the consumer side, there's still a lot with brand affinity, with viral trends, with users deciding what they want.
Mm.
I personally am skeptical that someone's going to choose, like, oh, in the case of fragrances,
Hmm.
my agent is just going to go pick the right fragrance for me. Like I'm not a huge cologne wearer. I do like Christian Dior. I have like all of their fragrances. I rotate between them. That's my personal choice.
Right.
I like that. That's, my decision. If Claude told me today that it thinks I should change, I would ignore it. I would have no interest in what it has to say about that. I think for some people that it's going to happen. I can see it happening for necessities.
Mm.
Hey, it's time to restock certain things in your home, like for sure, groceries, ideas like that. But I still think there's going to be a world in which humans are always behind the scenes
Mm.
making those decisions. And while maybe the agent is offering you options and saying, hey, here's four things or five things because you asked it. Hey, I'm interested in this thing. There's absolutely still going to be, well, okay, what's the first thing a user does when they get those four options? Well, they maybe look up the brand on TikTok and
Mm.
they watch some recent videos. They go to the person's website. And then you're in the world again where like
Verification. Yeah.
maybe not every purchase, right, is just going to be like a snap decision. So
Hmm.
now it's like the agent is doing some of the discovery. So maybe you're not searching on Google anymore, but now you've asked your agent, like, hey, I'm thinking about going on a vacation. Give me like a few options. Well, now you're like looking at that hotel and you're doing that initial search. You didn't make a decision. Well, now you're in the retargeting funnel. Now you're in the advertising funnel,
Yeah.
just like you were before. So I think the agent world is very much going to evolve. I could be completely wrong, and people could end up just like letting their agents run their credit cards and do whatever they want and tell them, hey, I booked that flight for you next week. Show up at this time, and people are cool with that. I tend to think people aren't going to be cool with that. And they're still going to want a lot of say on those things. And that it's going to become more of like we used to think of like search, where
Mm.
people are making a decision around research and trying to figure things out. But, what percentage of searches end up in a purchase the very first time? A very low percentage relatively.
Right.
And now you're in the, again, retargeting funnel, you're in the ad space, like all of the traditional things are coming in. So I personally think that is going to be a way that it's discovery, it's getting into the funnel.
Hmm.
I'm just very skeptical that like, I'm planning a bunch of trips right now. My brother's getting married. I have some other stuff going on. I'm all in on agents. I don't think I'm going to trust an agent to go like book my flights today. I'm going to do all of
But
that
what if it
myself.
would send you 5 suits in your size with return slips, and you just keep the one that you like?
I think, yeah, I think that's interesting. Um, but I still think like I'm gonna decide what
Oh
suit I
yeah,
want,
yeah. I mean, you'll
you
make
know?
the final decision. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just curious because I literally just had this conversation yesterday with a personal stylist, and we were talking about AI, and I brought that up. I'm just curious how
What
you
do
would
they
add.
think?
I mean, he's not into AI that much, but I'm just curious. We ended up playing around with the thought that I'll release. It's gonna be a project where we will create custom designed clothing for robots. So it's a little bit of a different direction, but I'm working on this
Okay.
site right now. um,
I like that idea, honestly, to
yeah, I mean,
personify them
hey,
more.
people used to make fun of here these guys, right? The cases.
Yeah.
It's the same thing essentially. No, but let's get back to your company. Um, you guys just launched, right?
Yeah, we just launched the agent. So we've been building for 2 years and we just
Yeah.
launched on Tuesday this week.
Did you have during testing any type of like early results or anything that you can reveal on that? I mean, you must have had
Sure.
something that you went down that route instead of this route. Like, what were some early results from there?
Yeah. So what was interesting is when we spoke to brands, we would ask them a lot of times, like, what is the reason that, things go well for you? So we were trying to figure out before we even had traits, we were really obsessed with this idea of like trying to take the subjectivity out of marketing and advertising
Mm.
and trying to make it scientific. And we would ask people a lot of times, like, what is the reason that this ad that's your top performing ad, why do you think it's the best? What are you doing from that? Where do you go from here? And we heard a lot of subjective ideas. There was one time when one of our customers ran an ad and there was this leather chair in the ad and the ad crushed. And they were like, this is awesome. They told their production team, all right, for the shoot next week, use this red leather chair. And it didn't go well. And they're like, wow, how did these ads not convert? I was so sure of this. And so what we did was we used the system we had for traits to analyze these imageries. And we realized like they actually used a dramatic camera angle with like a wide shot lens and lighting that they hadn't really used that much before.
Mm.
And the result was it was kind of like differentiated.
Yeah.
So it was more scroll stopping, right? People like noticed it more. It broke people's attention and it resulted in a super high performing ad. But it wasn't the prop itself that did that. It was the camera techniques, the lighting techniques.
Mm.
And so we edited some of their ads to be that into those same traits. So they had the dynamic camera angle and those things, and they became their top performing traits or the top
Gotcha.
performing ads
Yeah.
for that month. And that's when the moment was we were like, okay, this is pretty interesting. We're on to something. But the problem was before we could edit these ads with the models being good enough, we had to give users this feedback. So we would say like, hey, we ran this analysis because the analysis worked really well early on,
Mm.
but the editing did not work as well, right? Like we're talking like a year ago plus, the models just weren't there yet. It was when, funny things like people would have six fingers and all the old like AI slop things that you
Right.
don't really see
That was
anymore.
2 years ago. Come on.
Yeah, well, it feels like it was
Yeah.
5 years ago with the way
Yes.
things are going. But they would see these things and they'd be like, all right, well, I can never launch this. But the
Yeah.
analysis was good. So we would try and tell them what to do.
Hmm.
And we would say, hey, use this lighting, put the product like this, angle it like this. This is the kind of backdrop to use, all of those things.
Yeah.
And it was actually just really hard to end to end get those instructions followed.
With
So
that amount of detail, I love that how you dissect the scene. And this is for static images, right? Not for
for
video.
statics and videos.
Oh, video too. Okay, cool. Um, so one thing that everybody talks about, every platform has a different algorithm, right? In terms of what they're pushing this month or this year or whatever. I personally saw it's extremely uh, fluctuating on LinkedIn, for example. How do you guys account for that? Is there a function for that as well? I mean, I know you said mostly on Meta right now, so I guess it's kind of you know what you're dealing with. But how much of that does the performance of an ad play after you're so precise with dissecting it and putting a new one back together based on that recipe?
Yeah, so the way we design traits is it's all per platform.
Okay.
So it is meta. We've done some stuff with email though with Klaviyo. We've been R&Ding that, early versions of that.
Mm.
So all of the traits are unique to that platform. So
Mm.
one of the things that we're going to do when we launch on TikTok and others, so like the difference right between like Meta and TikTok, we'll have a whole different set of traits
Mm.
that are traits are also dynamic now and unique to each brand.
You know what
So
I think you should do for I don't know, like a hook or some like a landing page or whatever, like for people to sign up. Just so, it sounds dumb, but actually, the way you do it is really intelligent. A thumbnail generator for YouTube, an actual, real scientific thumbnail generator. I'm not talking about like a gem in Google Gemini or something like that, but like
yeah, yeah.
very specific because they're
Like the
obviously
one
in
that
the.
Jimmy made himself, Mr. Beast.
I don't know if
They
you.
made one.
Oh, okay, okay. But I think whatever you do
I
is
haven't
going to
seen
be
it
a
in a
thousand
while,
times
but
better because I know that
yeah, that's a
there's
good
certain
idea.
formulas, right? But it's a
No,
good
exactly.
onboarding and a good like, hey, we're Copley and we built the best thumbnail generator. based on science or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
because
No,
yeah,
exactly.
people
People
are
have asked
doing this,
us.
but it always looks kind of wonky, right? And it's not like 100%.
People have asked us to do it for organic. We do have a Twitter integration that a few
Mm,
people are using right now. It's not something that we push heavily yet.
mm,
Um, we've been really just focused on nailing this one channel
yeah.
and then going into more. But, all along the way is kind of like whenever I get an excuse to work on a new one, we'll R&D it a bit. And yeah, YouTube is absolutely one we're going to go into.
Mm,
Twitter or X, organic posting. Over time, our goal is to just cover more and more integrations and
yeah.
more surface area. Because at the end of the day, it's really just content.
Hmm.
Like one of the things we founded the company on is the breaking down of silos between organizations in marketing. So it's like you have your website team, you have your email team, you have your brand team, you have your ads team. And
Hmm.
today, a lot of them don't communicate well around, well, this is what's working really well in email. This is what's working well in ads. And for users, they don't really care where they're
Yeah.
seeing the content. They're looking at their screen, and if that's an email, if that's your website, if that's an ad, it's all kind of the same thing to them. And so if something does really well on one channel, you should try it in other channels.
Hmm.
And some of the early testing we've seen and that we know from the brands we worked with is this is actually pretty interesting. If you take, say, a end-to-end multi-channel campaign, so there's an email, there's an ad, there's a landing page, maybe you're doing some organic stuff too, and you say in each one, we're going to just test 10 different hooks, 10 different images, whatever. And so
Mm,
you have 10 times 50, there's like 50 different pieces of content or whatever. Um, or, and then, it's all kinds of combinations. If you just take the best one at converting each channel, that's kind of the intuitive thing to do, right? So it's
hmm.
like you go from email to, or say you go from ad to landing page, sign up to an email, get the email purchase. So there's this five-step process. You could think like, I'll just take whatever converts best for each of these.
Mm,
And that's my new experience. So I show this ad, it goes to this email, it goes to this landing page, et cetera, et cetera. Very rarely will the best individual
it has to flow.
across all of them have
Yeah.
the higher rate than the best consistent experience.
Mm,
Because you get that kind of makes sense, right? That like you get drop off.
yeah.
If you see a super clickbaity ad that's like making you click and convert, but then you get to a landing page that's not consistent and a different message,
Yeah.
you're going to get a lot of drop off. Same thing if the email comes in.
Mm,
And so one of the goals of Copley long term is to help brands and anyone really test what is the better experience end to end that I can provide my users while maintaining our brand, while being consistent. And then that basically becomes your 75, 80% of the time experience.
mm.
And then you're always testing 20% of the time behind the scenes to see if you can beat that.
I mean, sounds super interesting. I want to try it out myself, but uh, I got two final questions here. So my main job is really AI integration into companies, actual clients, and so the skill levels when it comes to AI tools is very low in general. Like if you go
Mhm.
into mid market, uh, usually the data infrastructure is not that great, to use
Totally.
polite terms.
Yep.
Um, and even like the SOPs in terms of how do we actually go about marketing, how do we create ads. I mean, I could tell you stories, but like companies in their individual industries within the top five in the nation, you would be surprised, man. Like some companies don't even have CRMs at that level, which is absolutely mind-boggling.
I've seen it.
So yeah, okay. So two questions. Number one, how easy is it for a company that is a little behind with AI implementation to get on board? And then two, what's the budget, monetarily and time wise, that they would need to set aside to just test what works, how it works, to kind of get into the groove of working with the system?
Yeah, totally. So one of the things we learned at Klaviyo was the value of essentially consumerization of the enterprise. So the ideas behind product-led growth and a really seamless, clean UI UX that a consumer product would use is actually a really effective way to get into enterprises. And this isn't a secret
Mm,
anymore, right? Everyone's trying to do this. And so one of the core beliefs we have is trying to make the product as easy to onboard and in front user facing UI UX wise, really quick and fast, but behind the scenes really powerful. And to that end, we have this kind of internal philosophy of trust but verify. And we want our entire app and everything you're using, our whole software suite, all of the AI tools to be inspectable.
mm,
So you can go in and you can check and you can see behind the scenes how it's working, what's going on. But if you want to just go on the smooth path, quickest path, it's really, really quick to get value. And so the what we ask brands to do is integrate their Meta account. They can integrate. We have integrations with digital asset managers. We have about 15 different integrations.
mm,
But the main one is Meta, your source of analytics, truth, and then digital asset management so we can get creative in the platform. And then there's an agentic onboarding. We walk you through even some basic stuff to what you were saying, like what is an agent?
mm-hmm.
What can kind of things can you do? How does the agent work? How do you get questions around the agent? Can you ask the agent, what it's capable of doing, all this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And then just onboarding you right into what we call a creative brief
Yeah.
and getting content in front of you right away. And then having you calibrate and say, I like this, I don't like this,
Mm,
giving a reason why, putting that into a reinforcement learning system where we're now learning what you like, what you don't like, and tweaking the model to be based on that. We're always going to try and guide you towards high performing ideas.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you don't personally, one of the challenges, if you don't personally like the things you're seeing, you're just not going to launch it. So we
Right.
can
Right.
try and convince you it's going to be high performing all we want. But there's a
Yeah.
balance between, hey, this is showing really good traits here. This looks good, and what you're willing to do. And
Mm-hmm.
again, we take in all of your brand guidelines. We take in all that. We take that into account and we generate things to keep it on brand, to keep your products high fidelity. But yeah, like onboarding is as quick as hours. Like you
Mm,
integrate your data, you wait for it to sync. On your end, it's a minute or two. Like you integrate, you get started, you wait. It does take a little bit of time to get all the data in, to get all the
right. Right.
traits synced. Like that's going to take some time. But then once we have all of that, we're able to create, launch, and iterate on ads for you really quickly.
And what
Um,
is it today? Like the timeline that you recommend for testing, just to know what works and what doesn't.
it's really based on budget mostly.
Okay.
So if you're spending $200 a day on ads, it could take you a very long time to figure
Mm,
out, like with any kind of statistical
yeah.
significance, what's working. You're spending $200,000 a day on ads, we can test stuff really fast.
Yeah.
Facebook batch updates their data. You usually get new updates every 4 to 6 hours. So, you can figure out really quickly if you're at scale. And the goal is really just to try and figure out these iterations within, your bounds. Even if you don't have perfect data, you can try and estimate, things. And a lot of marketing is directional.
Mm-hmm.
So you're trying to just figure out, hey, are we going in the right direction here? Are we
Yeah.
doing the
Yeah.
right things? Are the ads that we're spending money on doing well for this brand? Are they profitable? Um, End to end right now, we are selling to the mid-market. From the first moment we talk to a customer to where they're live and launching ads, we'd like to do that in under a week. And that's with going through legal, getting approval, getting all their brand assets, getting
Right.
integrated, getting them comfortable with the system. But if you came to us right now and you were gung ho about doing this, you could have an ad live in minutes.
Got it. Okay.
We charge $2,500 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and we're available in Slack. We have a web agent, and it's just like having another teammate. And it's
Yeah.
a new experience. And I want to touch upon what you said before, um, which is I think 100% true right now. That if you're in Claude Code all day, and I'm in 6 work trees from 8 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week right now for the last 2 months. So I'm very AI native in that way.
Right.
That is not the experience out there.
No. I read yesterday, if you're on Cloud Code 40 minutes a day, you're in the top 0.1%.
Wow.
I know.
I think that just shows you the amount of
I
adoption that they
know.
have.
I know. Yeah.
But
And then yeah. No, I get it.
what's interesting is I think one of the things that we talk about a ton here internally is when you're working with a new AI user, they use something and they have no calibration to know whether if something say if it goes right, it feels like magic. That's
Hmm.
great. That's what everyone wants. We all know that's not always the reality. The very first time you try and talk to an agentic system, an AI or whatever, if it's ChatGPT and you're asking some basic questions, sure.
Mm.
But if you're using Claude, if you're trying to do some serious business thing for the first time, there's definitely a learning curve. And there's ways to set it up. There's context. There's a lot of stuff you need to be aware of.
Yeah. I mean,
The
two things
challenge,
that I always see, and maybe that I'm sure you're aware of that too, is one, when you put a new system like anything AI in front of them, most of the time people don't even know the things that they don't know and they don't know what it can do for them. So it's really important to help them lead them in the right direction so they can have this little mind blowing moment. And the other really important thing for mid to long term adoption is building systems in a way, in my experience at least, that somehow create an internal habit for that person that's
for
steering
sure.
it. It's just something that can be easily plugged into one element of the tasks. Let's say the task is create a marketing campaign, replace one or two elements of that task with your platform, your solution, and make it mandatory. Right? And then after a while, it just feels like, yeah, of course we're doing it this way.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why we're in Slack.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
want to
No, that
meet
makes
people
total
where they
sense.
work. They already have the habit of
Yeah.
checking Slack 10 times, 20 times an hour.
Hmm.
So by being in Slack, seeing an unread message, it creates this really good habit of, oh, you know what? Copley just created some stuff for me. Oh, cool. I like this. I don't like this. Oh, I'm going to change this a little bit. Go generate 20 variants. I'll come back in 20 minutes and check it out.
Yeah.
And with content processing too, it's very async. So it
Hmm.
works really well in that way because, you're going to have to go do other things. You're going to be waiting for it to generate. But yeah, the other thing I was going to say is it's what's challenging right now for people is like they don't know when they get bad output if that was kind of unlucky. And if they change their prompt, if they change the way they ask, if they give it more context, it's going to get it right most of the time.
Mm.
Or if that's just something that's impossible. And I think that's the one of the most challenging parts right now is when you're handling new users, trying to help them learn
Yeah.
where the limits of the system are. What if you just ask it again, 90% chance it's correct?
Yeah.
Or do you need to do something to change it? And I think
Absolutely.
that just comes with like more usage. I think, it's like riding a bike. Like the more and more you do it, you get used to what different situations feel like, where the limits of the models are, what, is realistic for them to do or not. And then, you figure out tricks like if you're doing a lot of heavy data science and statistical analysis, like it's probably not something that you're just going to have an agent quarterbacking.
Mm.
You're probably going to be running SQL statements. You're going to be doing like actual math, right? With like solid like routines that have tests in them and that like you're making sure that the data is really solid. And then when you deliver that data, you have a lot of structure around having the AI interpret it and give um, reasoning and human readable feedback to it. Like that's a really great pattern. But just telling the agent, hey, you have access to SQL, write whatever query you want to get
Yeah.
access to data and then summarize it. I mean, that's probably pretty risky right now, especially if you're working with big companies, right? Like I'm sure you
Yeah.
would never ever think to do something like that. But a lot of people who are just trying this out think like, oh, that's maybe a reasonable idea. I'll just give it access to Postgres and then we'll see what happens.
You got to send them to the AI Adopters Club. I call this actually developing your human API because that's essentially what it is, right? Learning how to make your expertise be compatible and speak to the AI, right? Because otherwise you don't
Yeah.
have the edge, right? Everything just goes to the mean. All right, David, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate this. If people want to learn more about Copley, where do they go other than, or if they want to get in touch with you, are you on LinkedIn? How do people reach out to
Yes,
maybe test it out, try it out?
totally. I am on LinkedIn. You can go to copley.com. Right now, we are invite only. but if you mention this show, I'll let you in. And generally, if you find me directly and you're willing to give us really good product feedback, even if you're not a huge brand, we're always interested in that. If you are a large brand, you're looking to, increase your performance online. That's what we're all about. We'd be happy to help you. But in general, anyone who's an AI enthusiast who's interested in this stuff, this is what we do all day long. We'd love to talk to you.
Love it, man. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And yeah, for everybody else, enjoy the full article that we will cover here a little bit more Copley in detail. And David, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Camille.